Ever wonder what human meat tastes like? Surprisingly, eating human meat isn't against the law. Not in the USA, the UK, or anywhere else you can think of. In fact, there's literally no law against cannibalism anywhere. So if cannibalism is not against the law, then why does the police arrest cannibals? That's a bit vague, isn't it? Let's take a look at the Jose Salvador Alvarenga case. Jose Salvador Alvarenga was just a 36-year-old sailor. One day, he got caught in a terrible storm while he was out in the ocean. The storm was so strong that he got stuck and lost for over a year. Can you believe it? During this time, he wasn't alone. He had another man with him named Ezequiel Cordoba. They were both struggling to survive, relying only on raw birds and turtle blood for food. Sadly, Ezequiel couldn't handle this weird diet and he passed away. Imagine how hard the situation would be for anyone in his place. But of course, he had to make a decision to survive. That's when he made a tough one. He finally decided to eat the flesh of his dead companion to stay alive. When Alvarenga finally made it back to land and told people about it, you'd think he might face legal consequences for what he did. But surprisingly, no government official came to punish him. Even though cannibalism is usually seen as wrong, it seems like they understood how desperate he was and what he had to do to survive. This shows how far people can go when they're pushed to their limits. Something similar happened to survivors of a famous plane crash in the Andes back in 1972. The passengers had to eat the bodies of those who didn't make it to survive until they were rescued 72 days later. It shows that in extreme situations, cannibalism can be seen as understandable, even if it's not legal. But what if someone wanted to eat human flesh just out of curiosity, not because they needed to survive? Would that be okay, or would they get arrested and punished by the government? Considering there are already people in jail for cannibalism, it's clear that there are serious consequences for doing this outside of dire circumstances. According to Dr. Samantha Pegg from Nottingham Trent University, it's technically not against the law to eat human flesh in certain situations. She says there's no specific crime called cannibalism in our laws. However, if someone is in jail for eating human flesh, it's usually because they committed murder, not just for eating it. Dr. Pegg explains that you can't kill someone to eat their flesh. That's definitely illegal. But if someone dies naturally or agrees to be eaten after they die, there's no law against consuming their flesh. She talks about a famous case from 1884 where a shipwrecked crew had almost no food. Two men decided to eat a sick 17-year-old cabin boy to survive. When they were rescued, they were charged with murder, not cannibalism. Interestingly, the fourth person who also ate the boy's flesh wasn't charged with anything. She even gave an example of a case often known as the Rothenburg cannibal or Armin Meiwes case. In 2001, a German man named Armin Meiwes posted an online ad looking for someone willing to be eaten. Bernd Jürgen Brandes responded to the ad, and they met at Meiwes' home. Brandes agreed to be killed and eaten by Meiwes.
My name, Armin Meiwes. I was born 1961. I'm computer engineer from Rothenburg, Germany. I killed a man, slaughtered him and ate him. Since then, he is always with me.
Meiwes amputated Brandes' penis, and Brandes later died from his injuries. Meiwes was arrested and convicted of manslaughter in 2004. This case brought up legal questions about consensual acts, but because Brandes was willing, the court couldn't do much about it. Most cannibals are arrested and charged with things like outraging public decency or preventing a lawful burial. For example, in 1988, a performance artist named Rick Gibson legally ate human tonsils on the street, becoming the first person in British history to do so publicly. Now that we know it's legal to eat human meat in certain circumstances, you might wonder, what does it taste like? Does human meat taste good? Some people in Vietnamese and Chinese cultures eat a special organ called the placenta, which forms in a mother's womb during pregnancy. It connects the mother's blood supply to the baby and provides important nutrients. After birth, the placenta is often discarded, but some choose to cook and eat it, comparing its taste to liver. However, eating placenta is different from consuming other parts of the human body like the arm. It's not common or acceptable to eat human body parts like that, so we don't know what they would taste like. Eating human flesh is generally not done and can be against the law and considered unethical. According to Armin Meiwes, who is known as a cannibal, he described the taste of human meat as similar to pork. He claims to have eaten around 20 kilograms of his victim and considers himself knowledgeable on the subject. In an interview discussing the taste of human flesh, Meiwes mentioned that human meat has a strong bitter flavor, and he believes you need to eat it raw to fully experience its taste. As for whether human flesh really tastes like pork and whether it's that good, this is a highly controversial and disturbing topic. Cannibalism is illegal and considered morally reprehensible in most societies. The idea of consuming human flesh for taste or pleasure is deeply unsettling and goes against ethical norms. It's crucial to remember that such actions are not acceptable or lawful, and discussing them should be approached with sensitivity and caution. A journalist named William Bueller Seabrook was very curious about cannibalism during his travels in West Africa almost 100 years ago. He was so interested that he convinced a medical intern at the Sorbonne University of Paris to give him a piece of human meat from a healthy man who had died in an accident. Seabrook cooked and ate this meat because he wanted to experience what human flesh tasted like. According to Seabrook, the meat was surprisingly good and tasted like beef, unlike any other meat he had tried before. He claimed that if someone were given human meat without knowing it, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference between human meat and pork or beef. This might explain why many people have unknowingly eaten human meat over the years. It's important to note that these actions are highly unusual and often illegal. Cannibalism and consuming human flesh are not acceptable practices in most societies, and intentionally serving human meat without disclosure is morally and legally wrong. In 1924, a man named Karl Denke from Poland killed 40 people. He did something very disturbing with their bodies. He made pickles out of their flesh. Even worse, he sold these pickled human flesh jars in the market in Wrocław, pretending it was pork. Shockingly, nobody suspected that the meat they were eating was actually human flesh, not pork. The sales of these jars increased rapidly. People who ate it thought the taste was excellent and even became addicted to it. They were not disgusted by the fact that they were eating human meat. In simpler terms, Karl Denke secretly turned his victims' bodies into pickles and tricked people into buying and eating them, thinking it was pork. This horrifying story shows how some people were unaware that they were consuming human flesh and actually enjoyed the taste, which is very disturbing. Similarly, in 1925, a German man named Fritz Harman killed at least 24 prostitutes and sold their meat on the black market, claiming it was pork. Shockingly, people lined up to buy it and loved the taste, finding it aromatic and delicious. Some even claimed it relieved their back pains and body aches. Another German serial killer, Karl Grossman, was arrested in 1921 for killing 50 women. He operated a hot dog stand where he made hot dogs using their flesh, again passing it off as pork. Customers enjoyed his hot dogs without knowing they were made from human meat. It's sickening and disgusting to hear about these actions. Karl Grossman believed that female meat was more tender and delicious than male meat, claiming it had the best flavor when the human was a young woman. These stories highlight how dangerous and misleading the opinions of serial killers can be when it comes to the taste of human meat. It's crucial not to rely on such individuals for any kind of information or judgment. NEC System and Me University created a robot that could identify different foods like wines, cheeses, meats, and hors d'oeuvres. When this robot tasted the hands of human reporters, it mistook one hand for bacon and another for prosciutto, suggesting that human flesh has a taste similar to pork. However, this conclusion is not very helpful because the reporters didn't prepare their hands like bacon or prosciutto before the robot tasted them. How human meat is cooked and prepared significantly affects its flavor, just like any other type of meat. Therefore, it's important to consider that cooking and preparation methods can change the taste and flavor of human meat. If human meat were legal to eat, would restaurants ever serve it? Surprisingly, there have been instances where human meat has been offered for consumption. For example, there was a restaurant in Germany that served meals made from willingly donated human body parts like fingers and testicles. People who tried these dishes said the taste was extraordinary. Additionally, in 2005, a company sold a product called hufu, or healthy human flesh alternative made from tofu, claiming to replicate the taste and texture of human meat. According to them, if you've never had human flesh before, it tastes and feels like beef, but slightly sweeter and softer. However, these examples are highly controversial and not widely accepted in the mainstream food industry due to ethical concerns. While some people may be interested in trying these products out of curiosity, most people do not associate human flesh with flavors like pork or chicken as commonly believed. Still, most cannibals agree that the taste is closer to pork, so this is the closing. Human flesh tastes like pork. Do you think you will ever be able to eat human flesh? If your friend or family willingly allowed you to eat their meat, would you try it, or would you allow anyone to eat your meat? The subject is dark and terrifying, but it's not against the law. Besides, humans have a natural curiosity towards everything. What are your thoughts on cannibalism? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to share it with your friends and family, and do subscribe to our channel so you can watch more interesting videos like this.